The administration has been one of the biggest mysteries for me when it does come to Dragon's Rising. This arena of bureaucracy that seems to have a lot of strength and definitely a lot of power within the merged realms is seemingly something that should be important as a whole. I'm hoping what I'm about to say will age poorly, but it does feel like we're not really going to get a lot of answers. However, the administrator is basically something that we will never really find the answer to unless it's in some form of external media. It's been given to us by all indication that we just won't be receiving the answers that we do want, but those little instances when we do get administration stuff has definitely been a lot in terms of theorizing on what is truly going on there. And I have personally had my own hat in the theory realm when it does come to the administration. I have my theory on who the administrator is, and if you haven't seen that video, I'd recommend you do so. I really like that theory, and I do still stand by it by all accounts. And if anything, Season 4 definitely did reinforce my belief. I will go into that a little bit later though. But with Season 4, we have definitely had some more information when it does come specifically to Jay when it does come to the administration. It has definitely done a lot for filling in the gaps when it comes to the timeline of Jay, and I just want to give a general update as to what we actually know and what we may discover in the future, if anything. So sit down, relax, and have some fun as I go through the little bits of information that we do now know about the administration, and just try to come to some form of conclusion as to what is truly going on there. Because whilst we definitely still don't have the full answers, we at least have some belief on what could truly be the case. So let me not waste any more of your time, and let's talk about the administration. To start off, I am going to retread over my administrator theory and take it into context of Season 4. If you haven't watched that video, like I said, I would definitely recommend you do so because I'll go through it more in depth there. But the long story short of it is that my theory is that the chaos and the madness energy that is the Land of Madness manifested itself essentially as the administrator. We have had no indication that the administration existed at the capacity that it was before the event of the merge. So it does seem to be that it was a post-merge product, but also it just doesn't seem to be that there's anyone actually at the helm. You can note that throughout the entirety of the time that we see it, rules are made up as it goes along and people just go along with it. It just seems to be that anything and everything is basically well to go, and Jay directly acknowledges that within Season 3 in particular. Jay has many plans formed around the concept of basically distracting people by making something up as we go along. For example, bringing ninja buddies to work day is something that basically shouldn't have existed, but for some reason the agents acknowledge it as being something that happened a few days ago, whereas they've always said that they just aren't friends with anyone outside of the administration. But also, we get to see Jay utilize a birthday cake and not even specify whose birthday it actually was. But again, all of the agents went along with it. So it definitely just does seem to be a case of the chaos and the madness energy is able to synthesize things as you go along. And I truly do believe that Season 4 has completely reinforced that belief. We have seen multiple instances within the 4th season where anytime anything weird happens to do with the administration or just the Land of Madness in general, Nia and Kaya sat there trying to figure it out, and Jay, who is clearly very much in tune with what this realm is truly capable of, always has the exact same answer. It is the Land of Madness. And it seems to be that he's very sure in that answer. He seems to know for a fact that that is the true cause of anything that is suspicious. And like I said, if the cause of it is the realm itself, it definitely does make sense that it seems to be that at the helm of the biggest thing within that realm would be controlled by that very same source. So yeah, I am 100% certain that the administrator is still nothing. I am still completely confident that the administration is ran essentially on chaos and darkness and madness in a big weird mesh of one. I don't believe there's any other indication to believe that it's anything else. I don't think the administrator was even mentioned by name in the 4th season, which is very weird because anytime we do go there, we do get administrator mentioned specifically. So I really am still sure in this one, but let's actually move on to something new. The main thing that we do learn this time round is how the administration actually got a hold of Jay when the merge did first begin. We actually get a scene depicting Jay's first time actually encountering the administration, of course from his perspective. We get to see Jay wake up in the middle of the Land of Madness in a torn up suit, and we get to see him go up to some random agents who genuinely don't seem to be familiar with the fact that he's there, but they are aware of who Jay Walker is. Again, kind of reinforcing the chaos energy just generates random things theory. But we actually get to see Jay just try and figure out who they actually are. We get to see a callback to the Suits comment, but then we do get introduced to the biggest aspect of the administration this time round, which is Agent Donovan. He is seemingly responsible for most of the things that we actually have seen when it does come to the administration. He comes onto frame and he immediately greets Jay as his best friend. He's just in character like that. We get to see him talk about how they've been the best of buds for a very long time and they were the best of friends. And we get to see a few more scenes actually depicting this. It seems to be that by all accounts, Agent Donovan did actually want a best friend. But the thing is that we also get established that he was very much aware and also heavily involved in what actually did happen to Jay when it did come to his memories. Donovan is the one who was signing off on the forms to actually get rid of Jay's suit and to keep Jay around and to synthesize these doctored images when it does come to Jay. It seems to be that he was possibly the most involved when it does come to the release of Jay's memories, which is really strange because we don't actually really get an answer as to what's going on with him. I want to say immediately, I don't think he's the administrator. It makes absolutely no sense for him to be the administrator based on what we've truly seen of him. And also, I just don't think he would have concerned himself like this if he was. I think it's just a really weird thing that I've seen some people wonder about. But anyways, we don't really get an answer on who Donovan truly is. As soon as we get to the point where we may get to learn something, he shutters himself off and we never see him again. Possibly never see him again in Dragon's Rising itself, we don't actually know. But he was ultimately the reason that we actually got to see Jay have his memories restored and we got to see him become the Master of Lightning once more. Again, really nice scene, but I do have some other videos about that if you do want to check those ones out. But that for the most part is the biggest chunk of administration lore that we have received when it does come to Dragon's Rising. Donovan is seemingly a very big player here, and it's very interesting to note that he's been introduced this late on, considering how important he does seem to be. And what makes that importance even weirder is, like I said, he just gets shuttled off of the season so quickly with no explanation whatsoever. We don't have any answers as to where he went, if we'll see him again, and what his intentions truly were. We can only really speculate on what he truly was after when it does come to Jay. Well, the first explanation that you could consider is that he was quite sincere in what he was saying. He, by all accounts, just simply wanted a best friend. He saw Jay, saw that he was the Master of the Lightning, one of the ninja, and he just wanted to be buds with him. He definitely did seem enthusiastic about being his friend, so I guess that could make sense as the first explanation. The second explanation as to why Donovan did everything he did could just simply be the fact that he's also just as susceptible to this madness energy that is within the land. Of course, this links back into the administrator theory. If Donovan is also tangled up in this energy that no one really seems to have a control of, maybe this chaos basically dictated him into doing those things that he did. What if he believes that he had to do it because of that energy? What if he didn't really think he had a choice? We don't know. Remember, if the administrator is just truly chaos energy, what if the administrator told Donovan to do everything that he did because that was basically just what happened because of the madness? We don't really know the answer to it, but again, you could look at that as a way to make sense of it. But the last theory as to why Donovan did the things that he did is because he in and of himself is some form of villain that we will see in the future. Maybe Donovan is a part of these loyalists that we've seen for Beatrix. Maybe he's a part of a different faction. We don't truly know. But the thing is that when he got shuttled off to nowhere, he could basically be anywhere. And we know for a fact that the administration was riddled with loyalists. So what if he was just simply one of them as well, and we will see him return later on? And that is why he makes the remark of, there are things that Jay simply won't understand. What if Donovan's role in all of this was to keep Jay away from the ninja team so they weren't ever fully united? Of course, that would mean he's not a loyalist because that predates the loyalists, but again, it could be setting up something in the future. We don't truly know. It could be to do with near enough anything, but again, it's an explanation on how we could look at it moving forward. But the last thing that we learn about the administration within this season is basically that they're just really stupid. Of course, they've shown a degree of incompetence throughout the entirety of their time in Dragon's Rising, but this season, whether it's intentional or not, has really demonstrated that they're just kind of dumb. I don't know how else to put it. There are two major examples that immediately come to mind for me. The first one is when they bring in the vehicle from Rapton. They're like, oh, we've claimed a new vehicle for our garage, and they just simply bring it into the building, no questions asked. You would think if they're so heavily reliant on protocol and paperwork and documentation, you'd think that they would at least check the vehicle for any sort of suspicious items or maybe some ninja on the underside of the vehicle. But I guess not. It just seems really stupid if you think about it. But the other thing they do, which I think is genuinely worse, is going back to the whole thing with Jay. During season 4, as the ninja are walking along the land of madness, they just happen to come across a briefcase that has Jay's ninja suit in it, and along with documentation showing that Donovan signed off on getting rid of incriminating evidence. There is so much wrong with the fact that this is just out there. For one, it is very much barely buried in the ground. They could kick it just by walking over it, so whoever buried it clearly didn't do a good job. Secondly, there's an incinerator in the administration. There is a literal fire pit, and clothes would go in there perfectly. Man, even the briefcase would go in there completely fine. Why is it that they decided to shallowly bury it a few blocks away from the administration over just getting rid of it entirely, fully just dismantling it by fire? It makes, again, no sense when you think about it, and you'll realize that they really just didn't know what they were doing here. Like I said, we've seen plenty of instances of the administration having a degree of incompetence, but it really does feel like this was the major one. It really doesn't feel like there's any way to explain away why this makes sense at all. It really just doesn't work in any sort of sense, and I just really wanted to point it out. But with all of that aside, we have definitely learned some interesting things when it does come to the administration. I am actually really happy that we got something, because I was genuinely worried that we weren't. I really do think there's a lot more here that we just won't see or maybe can't see because of limits with timing, but I just hope that we get more answers in the future. The administration, Donovan, Jay, all of those little bits and pieces that I just really need to come together to form something cohesive. Because as it stands, there is just so much about the administration we don't know, and I just really need to know the answer when it does come down to it. But those are my theories, my speculations, and my reinforcements when it does come to the administration, and this is where I want to pass it off to you guys. Because on an overall, I just don't really know what else to think when it comes to the administration, because I'm just severely doubting we'll see it again. I am hopefully wrong, because I really do hope we get to see more with it, because it's really fascinating, but I just don't have much faith. But as it stands, the theories that I have do somewhat round off everything that we have, and I can live with it. But, like I said, I would love to know what you guys think, because I'm definitely curious to know if you agree with me, if you disagree, if you believe my theories, if you have other theories. There are so many things to consider here, so I definitely do want to know what you guys are thinking when it comes down to it. But besides all of that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider subscribing. I love discussing Ninjago with more people, and if you do want to support the channel any further, which you do not have to, you could always become a channel member and join the legends that you see on screen. Each of you, your support means the absolute world to me, and I cannot thank you enough. But like I said, that is about it for today, and take care. Okay,